Hello everyone. In this video I want to show you how to continue with the midterm. So if you haven't already, make sure you click on the midterm, or you can find it inside of this Canvas shell page where I have a link that sends you directly to the midterm. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the rubric. Make sure you check all of the requirements. So going off of this, I'm going to sort of just keep pushing forward towards it little by little, and this way it's not so overwhelming by the time midterms come around, especially because I know you'll have other, classes to study for and things like that. So if you do a little bit as the here and there as the semester goes on, it won't be so overwhelming, and you won't have to cram so much in such a little short period of time. So anyway, let's get to it. So I've got the bookshelf here, and I've just opened it. It's from week 1. We modeled the bookshelf, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to do a unwrap on it. And we're going to unwrap and texture this. So I'm going to hold just like we did the crate, but a little bit different. So I'm going to hold spacebar on this, and I'm going to go to UV and Automatic. Now, panels, saved layouts, and Persp UV editor. And even now you can see what it looks like when it's automatically unwrapped. I'm going to undo that really quickly just to show you beforehand what it looks like. So you'll notice before I automatically unwrap it, you'll notice that I've got some red faces in here. And what those red faces mean, and by the way, you can toggle that on right here, on and off. So in case you have it like this by default, this is sort of the wireframe display, and this is shaded display on textures, on specifically UVs. So blue is good, red is bad. And what that red means is that that UV is just flipped upside down. Now with this particular example, I can't really show you what that means just yet. But that's all it means. It means it's the normals, that's what they're called, in which the texture is displayed on the mesh is literally just upside down. That's all it is. So what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to go back to object mode, and I'm going to just start to UV automatic, and I'm holding spacebar, and I'm just going to UV automatic. Now you'll notice it automatically unwraps this for me. And one of the things I want to show you, I would strongly recommend doing this. I'm going to hold right click, and I'm going to go to assign new material, and I'm going to go to Lambert. Now in here under Lambert, I'm going to right click down here and go to Lambert. And if you have a lot of information in there, you can just do an edit, delete all by type, history, and all that stuff will be erased, and you'll have a cleaner attribute editor that'll make it easier to access different features inside here. So anyway, with that being said, I've got this automatically unwrapped, and I've assigned a new material, and I'm going to call this checker board material. Now from here under color, I'm going to click on this little label icon, I believe it's called. Let's see if it comes up. No, the little name's not coming up, but it's like label icon or something. Anyway, this little checkerboard is going to access our different types of ways we can add a material on this, and we're going to just click on checker. Now on the checker, you'll see it's in the preview, it's just a checkerboard. That's really all it is. So I'm going to tap 6 on my keyboard while in this viewport to make sure that I turn on 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded display, and 6 is shaded display with texture. And what this is going to tell me, this is a really important feature to know, especially in unwrapping. If I go to Tools and Move UV Shell Tool, and I'm going to highlight all of these UVs, and I'm going to scale them larger, much larger, I want to show you something that's happening. So if you look at this, in the preview it's supposed to be all squares, right? But what we have are rectangles. So you'll notice these rectangles, and what that's doing is it's called texture stretching. Basically, when I apply a texture to this, it's not going to look like it's supposed to. It's going to be stretched out. So if you think of something that's elastic, such as maybe like a rubber band, or I don't know, some type of stretchy cloth material, if you were to draw something on it, right, I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. Draw a checkerboard on it, and then you go ahead and stretch it out. You're going to see, like a rubber band, you pull it from one end to the other. You're going to see that you get some stretching on that drawing. Same thing with some type of stretching cloth. So you'll notice it just pulls and gives this illusion, same as this. This is just with this checkerboard that it's stretching out, and we want it to come back to squares. That's a really important factor to understand when it comes to unwrapping. It's extremely important. It's not always possible, depending on the model, to get absolutely perfect squares, but it's extremely important to get them as close as possible to squares. So I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to show you a couple tricks we can do that's going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to tap spacebar on here, and I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to go to Tools, Move UV Shell Tool, and I'm going to highlight this. Now, with all of my UVs highlighted, I want to start to show you some things. So even before I do this, I want to show you one more thing before we continue. If I go to Windows, and I go to Settings, Preferences, and I go to Plugin Manager. Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager. Click on that, the Plugin Manager pops open. Now in here, it's going to say unfold3d.mll. Click Loaded and Auto Load, right? And then click Refresh and Close, and just sort of forget about it for now. So now that you've got that loaded, let's go ahead and continue with this, and let's go to unfold this. So go to Tools and Show UV Toolkit. It's going to say, on mine it says Hide because I already have it open, but when you click on Show UV Toolkit, you're going to get a pop-up window that looks like this. I have mine docked off to the side because I access it very often, so it's just a really good quick access thing to have here. So I just leave it docked over here all the time because I use it so often. So in here, under my UV toolkit, I want to show you something that we do very often when unwrapping any model, but for whatever reason I didn't even realize it wasn't going to work right on this. But if I click on it here, you'll notice it actually doesn't do anything, which is extremely rare. I don't even remember that not working, and I'm assuming it's because I just ran an automatic unwrap. So when I click unfold, literally nothing happens. So I need this to get, I want this to get the squares that I'm looking for, but as easy as possible, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this unfold along, and you can set it to U or V. You're gonna have a different layout, I'm sure. Depending, I mean, it's going to be similar, but it could lay out differently, so this won't matter as much. But as long as you click one of them, go ahead and click unfold. I'm going to do V and do unfold along, and then click. There we go. UVs using a horizontal, so horizontal would be U or vertical V. So I'm just going to use V and hit unfold along V or vertical. And now you're going to notice that in here, I've got the squares that I'm looking for. And let's try U really quickly. Oh, I have to make sure. Tools, Move UV Shell Tool. One thing I notice here is that these squares are far smaller than these squares. So I want to see if I can fix that really easily. And sometimes there isn't an easy way, but sometimes there is. So I'm going to go to Tools, Move UV Shell Tool. I'm going to highlight all of these, and I'll try U really quickly. And it still didn't do anything. And that's because I actually got one step ahead of myself. With all of this here, the one thing I haven't done yet is actually get them to be uniformly scaled. So to show you what I mean is, it's this one. So to show you what I mean, on here, if I were to scale this larger, the cubes get much smaller, the checkers. If I scale it smaller, they get larger. So you want to make sure, as best as your ability, to match these squares. Now I'm going to show you a faster way to match these squares up. So I think this is kind of pretty close. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'm going to do Tools, Move UV Shell, so I can highlight all of these, and you'll notice I have overlapping faces here on the UVs, and that's not good either. So I'm going to show you the quick way to lay these all out right in the square without having to scale each one and move them into that square. So we're going to highlight all of these, and we're going to go to Modify, and now we're going to go to Layout right here. Modify Layout. In here, where it says Unfold 3D, that's where we turned on that Unfold 3D in case it wasn't on for you by default already. But I turned that on, so just in case. And if it doesn't work, if your system's sort of not working, you're getting a red bar error down here. It's going to be highlighted in red and say unknown 3D unfold not found, yada 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 yada. It's because you have to turn on the plugin. And also, if it doesn't work when you click on these things, close Maya, reopen it, and it should work just fine. That's just in case. That's what the refresh button is for, but just in case it doesn't refresh as it's supposed to. So I'm going to just go ahead, unfold 3D, and now we need to make sure under scale mode we switch it from, it's probably off by default, and just turn it on to uniform. If it's not already on uniform, put it on uniform. And what that's going to do, it's going to rescale all of these UV shells. It's going to also lay them all out inside of our 0 to 1 sort of ratio where we can apply our texture. So make sure this is uniform. You can leave everything else the same and just click Lay Out UVs. I'm going to tap F to zoom in on here. And just to show you one more time, you can see that they're all in here in my UV editor. And while this is on dual, I'm going to go ahead and scale this larger. And you're going to see that all of these squares are roughly about the same. Now these ones up in front and on the back are slightly off, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. The rest of them are all really good. So in that case, if you really wanted to, you'd have to rescale these and move them into place in that editor. But just in case anyone doesn't think I noticed that these squares are slightly larger, we want them to be as closely scaled uniformly equivalent to one another as possible, and for the purpose of this is totally fine. So we're just gonna do I can undo this. I just wanted to show you that, and make sure they're all back here. We'll tap 5 on here just so or turn this off right here. This little picture icon, it's like a mountain with a sun or moon or something. Just so I can show you. And this is what my UVs look like. So basically, if I wanted that to be a little bit bigger, or those to match a little bit better, I guess I'll show you for anyone who's really, really interested. You can go ahead and it would be something like this one. I might even want to make this a little bit bigger. So it would be something like Tools, Move UV Shell Tool. I'll select this one. This one. So these, and I'm holding Shift and clicking and dragging over these, and I think I've got all of them. And now I can scale them a little bit larger to try to match those squares a little bit more closely, and that's actually pretty good. And then at this point, I would highlight all of these, and I would do. Oh, I also need the back here. It's not like we'd actually see it, but I can tell that it's off, so it's this one here. So I'm just going to scale it to be approximately the size of this. So I think that's pretty good. Just make sure that they all look roughly the same if you go ahead and take the extra step like I am here. And now when we do this, we highlight all of these. Instead of doing layout uniformly under modify, we would do off and then just hit layout UVs. And then you want to just double check it, and it's closer. So let's see, actually. tools, or modify, and layout, or modify layout along, and let's try U first and see if that helps. No. Let's try V next. No. So that didn't work at all. Modify, and I'm just going to do layout then. And non-uniform. Let's try non-uniform and hit layout and see if that helps. Because otherwise you'd have to just do this by hand and put them all back in. Alright, so that's close enough. Anyway, you get the idea. So now I'm going to highlight all of these, and I'm going to go to Image, UV Snapshot, Browse where I'm going to save it to, and here just creating a new folder. So what I typed in is bookshelfuv.tga, and I'm going to click Save. Make sure it's a Targa. 1024 by 1024 is totally fine, and I'm going to go ahead and click Apply and Close. And now in Photoshop, I'm going to go to File and Open. And bookshelf and bookshelf. And now I have my UVs here. So I always like to start by clicking and dragging and duplicating my background. And I can always rename this and call it alright. And now I'm going to find a texture over here on textures.com. Make sure you go ahead and sign in, which I already showed in one of the labs. And I'm going to type wood. Now you have all these different types of wood, which is super awesome. You can actually download these if you'd like. I'm going to find one. This looks like a wooden floor. This would look like this is also a wooden floor. This one would look pretty neat. This sort of mahogany, maybe red oak. I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through a little bit and see what we can come up with. This one's pretty cool too. I like this one. So, if I was going for a more rugged look, that's more of a floor panel. You can pick whichever one you like. Just to be maybe I'm having a hard time picking because there's just so many options, right? I think this one's really neat. I really like the way that looks. But that also looks like it would be more for a floor. So I'll stick with this one. This one will be totally fine. And all I'm going to do is make sure you're logged in. And I'm just going to download the 1024 by 1024 and click download. And then locate it in my files, and I'm going to just drop it in the folder that I want it to go to. And back in Photoshop, I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to click on Textures, Com. That's the one I just downloaded. And here is my texture. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control C. Oh, excuse me. Control A, Control C. I'm going to go back over here and do Control V. And you'll notice it's the same exact size of this. So just to show you, what this would look like. That's fine. Diffuse and turn off alpha channels and click Save. And 32 bits a pixel and OK. Now what this is going to do is if I just assign it like this, I'm going to assign new material, and just to give you a little heads up, because we do this later, you can assign this one as an Arnold shader, and we're going to do AI standard surface. So in here, I'm going to click on under base, because this is our base color. This is known as a color map, basically. Also a diffuse. Label color. So we're going to click on this. We're going to go to File, and then we're just going to go ahead and open up wrong one. My diffuse.tga. So just looking at it like this, I just want to show you what, I mean, it looks kind of cool, right? It works in a way. But one thing you'll notice is that the wood grain is going this way on this side, and it's going vertical on the other side. And it should be going vertical on both sides. This just looks kind of weird. You would never build anything like that. This would be multiple different pieces of wood and paneling. So these would be basically, we need to go ahead and kind of toy with it a little bit. But the other thing I want you to take note of is we can also, we can't really do much in here in my UV editor, because it'll be like overlapping UVs and stuff. But in our Photoshop file, I'm going to take this bookshelf UVs and I'm going to drag it on top of my wood bookshelf. That's fine. And what I'm going to do on my bookshelf UVs under this blend mode is I'm going to switch it to screen. So now my UVs, I'm going to press Control plus to zoom in. I can see a little bit better which ones are which. So another thing I want to do, and this might be getting a little complicated, but this would be totally fine. If you want to go to the extra mile, I'm going to show you how to do it right now, as easily as possible. So I'm just going to scale these down, and you could literally, actually even before I do that, I'm going to call this one, and I'm just going to show you I'm going to just show you the proper way to do this. I'm going to hide the original for now. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to just start to sort of make these go over certain places. So like this one, I think I want it to be this way. Alright, and then I'm just going to reuse this one throughout. Oh, delete that one really quickly. The one I just created. This one I'm going to resize. It didn't match my UVs all the way. I'm using the arrow keys to sort of place this in. And I'm going to keep repeating this process until I get the results that I'm looking for. And I can overlap these for now, and I'm just going to show you and zoom in a little bit. Use my arrow key, and you'll see that it just lines up just right. And that's known as a seamless texture. And you can go through this and sort of and just make sure I got that all the way through. I don't see anything there. Okay. Alright, and now basically what I can do with this, I'm going to save this out now. And this is going to take, you know, probably at least another 10, 20, 30 minutes, depending on how quick you are with it. And in Maya, I'm going to come back over here, but this is technically the proper way to sort of do this at I'm just going to reload this one just to show you where we're at. And you'll notice that this side is going vertically. I haven't gotten, this side is going horizontally, so I'll have to come back to that. But not the entire thing is textured yet, especially the inside of these shelvings. But for the most part, a lot of it is. So I need to figure out which ones these are. So that's this one. So this one I need to rotate on. Okay. So just duplicate this one. And put it right here. And other things I can do with this, just going to try to match these so they're not overlapping. You'll see I have a little vertical there. And this is like a little bit of a painstaking process. I can start to delete pieces that I don't need, such as using my rectangular marquee tool right here. I'm going to delete this side of it, and then I'm going to press Control D to unselect, duplicate this one, and I'm just going to run through this process. Alright, so now I can save this out, and I just want to show you what I did. In Maya, I'll reload it, and I'm going to turn this layer off. And come back over here, click on this little arrow, and click Reload. And you're going to see that I'm starting to make this bookshelf have a little bit more intricate detail. So this one right here, I want to make sure I finish this one horizontally, because that's how it's supposed to look. You'll see that this one comes up, and then this one's going to come across, and this one's going to come down. The back, it can be horizontal. That's all just a preference. But really, I just wanted to make sure that you sort of understood how this worked, because as this is just a more complicated cube. That's really all it is. It has a lot more sides to it because of the interior shelves. So as we did with the crate, where we added numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, we have a lot more sides to it. So I'm just going to continue with this, and I'm going to show you by the time I'm done what it you know, give or take what it should look like. And I don't have these labeled, but so this one I'll duplicate. Press enter, and I see this little seam here. I'm just going to tap on the arrow key left once, and now I'm going to turn on my UVs again, and I can start to do stuff like this, and I think it's up to like here. And now I can save it and take another look at it. And I'm just doing this so you see what I'm doing. Otherwise, I would just go ahead and save this continue to do this way. Save, yes. Okay. Without saving. So I'm going to start doing that next without constantly refreshing this to show you what it's supposed to look like. So now I've got it running vertically here, at the side, at the top, and the other side. So that's right. The back, I'm going to leave this horizontal one going, and then I guess I'll even change the front to be vertical. So back in Photoshop, turn back on this UV. I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to rotate it to be this way. I'm going to press enter really quickly, and this one's going to go all the way up here for now. And I wish I was naming these as I do it, but there's just too much going on. So in here, I could even have the back go vertical, which might be cool. Let me just see. Okay. And then I'll just duplicate this one more time. And Control T to move, or I could press V on my keyboard to, and now I'm going to use my marquee tool and delete this here. And I think that's all I need. And then I'll save this out one more time, because I want to know what it looks like this time. Oh, I just want to make sure I got it right, because it does get confusing. And I haven't seen what the back of it looks like yet with changing it, so I just want to make sure I did. That'll work. So you'll see I'm just sort of starting to go through this one at a time and making sure that each side looks right as it should. But I really don't have too much of a problem with you submitting, well, this isn't an assignment until the midterm, but I would like you to try your best to sort of get it like this. Similar, anyway. And now I've got these, which I'd like them to run long. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's basically all of so everything from here up. Okay. So I'm going to go back into Photoshop and actually back into Maya really quickly. So it's this one too. And then what's this one? Oh, these are the backs. Okay. And that's the back. And that's the back. And that's the back. Okay. So back over here in Photoshop, now that I have a little bit better idea, this one would be what's this one? Okay, so that's the bottom. So this one's got to be a long ways. Alright, so I'm going to take this one, duplicate it, Control T to edit transform, and then just go ahead and rotate that. And this one I'm just going to scale a little bit larger because I don't feel like duplicating it again, and use my arrow tool to sort of just lift that up. And I should have just been deleting these sort of as I was going. And Control D to deselect, Control T. That one I want to be long. Okay. And these I want to be long as well. And just to save myself as much time, I'm going to try to do this fairly quickly as possible. I'm going to bring this one down underneath so I don't have to delete anything. But you get the idea. I know it's a little bit sort of confusing, but it's just, ooh, duplicate. It's just the sort of the nature of the beast on this one. And then I'll have to go back and see which ones I need to sort of redo or something like that. And because this is just a straight up bookshelf, there's nothing else I really need to texture on it, so this is totally fine. Control T. This doesn't need to be perfect. And let's go ahead and save this out because I did a lot here. And back in Maya. And now I can start to see, oh, I don't want those to distract me while I'm looking at it. And I know I have one last little spot to cover. And back in here, reload it. So basically, when it's all said and done, I'm going to want these faces here to all be matching the same way. You'll notice these are vertical, these are vertical, these are horizontal. And I'm not too concerned about it being horizontal or vertical. It doesn't matter too much. I think I'll just make it vertical, just because. And this one, not gonna work the way I wanted it to. That one's already vertical. Let me see. So this one needs to go. If you can do this, if you can find room, you can just select your UV shell and rotate it, but I'm not gonna even. I showed you that with the crate, but I don't think that's gonna work the same way I want it to here. So this one is going horizontally. So I'll start with that one. Which looks like it's this one in the middle. So I'm just going to go right here with it, and then use my marquee tool to delete the rest of it. Alright. So I'm making progress, and I just have a few more spots I got to look at. And as this gets a little bit more intricate towards the end here, I will definitely need to save out. Control Shift S to save, TGA, bookshelf 2, turn off alpha channels, save, okay, okay. And back in Maya, reload. Oh, I made it horizontal. Whoops. So I actually want it to go the other way. Okay. Let me turn this back on. See if I can get it to fit. And it's actually, I'm going to have to delete this one and just do it one more time. Delete that one, duplicate this one. And I think actually if I just do these all that way, I'll be in good shape. Using my marquee tool, I'm going to try my hardest not to accidentally select anything here. And at the top here, And over here, in case I'm overlapping anything, I didn't mean to. And that might do it. Okay. Anyway, TGA. Just gonna do it actually until I get it done. And now back in Maya, I'm gonna reload it. So everyone vertical, vertical, except these top ones, which is, so I'm gonna have to rotate that one. Okay. Oop. This one. Nope. This one. Yeah. Control T, rotate. See what that does. And then I also see there's got to be one of these down here, I'm assuming. I'm simply going to move this one down just a smidget. Alright, now I'm going to see what this looks like one last time. Alpha channels, bookshelf 2, save, yes, okay. Back over here. Whoop. I'm going to reload. And now I've got them all vertical. These are horizontal. And those are all horizontal also. So I'm just checking to make sure each one sort of matches. And the only one that I kind of might want to change at this point, I think it might look better if I go horizontal with it. But it's just weird because this would actually be separated into separate pieces. But I guess it's fine for what it is. But let's just see one last time for fun what. Let me turn on my UVs one more time. If I were to duplicate this one, okay, and using my elliptical marquee tool, I'm simply going to delete this side, delete this side, and then delete anything on top. And press Control D, and then Control minus, or 0, excuse me. Control minus zooms out, Control 0 will fit the screen. Now I'm going to go back over here, turn this off. It looks like a bunch of jumbled little things, but I mean essentially that's what it is. And I have one little smidget of a UV hanging out up here, which, there we go. So I'm going to save this one last time as a TGA. Turn my alpha channels off, 32 bits a pixel. I'll zoom out just so I can see it. Go back into Maya, and now reload my texture one last time. I feel like it looks a little bit more natural, where the front's going horizontal, just because most of the focal point is on these shelvings here. So anyway, that's how you go about and texture this. And the bottom one, this one, should actually be going the other way. No one's ever going to see it, but because I've come this far, and let me double check in Maya so I know which one it is. It's this one. 1, 2, 3. So it's the third one. 1, 2, 3. So it's this one. And because I've come this far, maybe I have one I can use up here. I'm going to use my elliptical marquee tool and delete any of the sides that I don't need on this layer, and turn that off, and save it one last time. This is the last time. Alright, so now you'll see that this texture, it wraps in the proper direction of the grain all the way around. On the back, I think the vertical looks well, but I really think the horizontal on the front does a much nicer job. It even plays nicer with the shelving units here. So anyway, that is texturing the bookshelf. A little bit more detail than needed, but I wanted to show you the right way to do it, as right as possible anyway, without getting even more advanced into texturing and things like that. So that's just basically applying a texture and then just, moving this texture on top of the appropriate UVs in the proper direction. So we covered a lot in this. You don't have to go if you followed all the way to this part, awesome. That is totally awesome. However, for my students, you didn't need to go this far, but I encourage you, as we learn more in texturing, to make sure you, as the semester goes on, especially for your final, that you utilize these techniques. Again, this isn't this is technically a graded assignment because this is part of a requirement on your midterm. However, I don't have an actual lab due for this, so it's just part of the midterm. But the midterm is graded heavily, so be sure to check that also. So anyway, that's texturing the bookshelf. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching, and just shoot me a message if you have any questions for me.